What's up, YouTubers and He-Man fans? Welcome back. Today I'm really excited to bring you a couple of the newly released Wave 3 figures from Masters of the Universe Revelations. As you can see, these are in nice large window packaging, and on the left here is the Andra figure, and over here is Fisto, and I actually lucked out. I found these at my local Walmart, not knowing that there was a street release date, and I was able to acquire these. So I wanted to get these in front of you and show them off. On the side of the packaging here, there's some really fantastic drawing of each one of the figures, as they've done on all the previous packaging. Let's look at the back of the box real quick. And on the back of the box here, you can see pictures of the figures and their bios, so feel free to pause the video and read those if you like. And I really enjoy how they do some fantastic drawing of each one of the figures on all their packaging. It's a nice callback to the original Masters of the Universe classic releases. Of course, on the bottom here is the other figures in the wave, and I did acquire Scareglow and Stinkor, so I'll be doing a review of those shortly. And if we look at the side of the box, you can see over here is Fisto, the heroic master of hand-to-hand combat, and Andra, the heroic officer of Eternos. Spinning these back around to the front, again, if you're a mint and box collector, absolutely amazing way to show these off and put them on your shelf. But we're going to open them up and check them out. With everything laid out on the bench here, and we're going to do an inventory of everything that's included with each one of these figures. And right out of the gate, I have to tell you, I'm absolutely impressed with the way these figures look. I know folks have had issues with the Wave 1 figures and the skin tone of He-Man and such, but looking at FISTO here, you can see that they really improved on that. And unlike He-Man, which I really enjoyed, they toned it down quite a bit. Let's go over the accessories first, and we'll start with Andra here. And first off, we'll take a look at her nice soft goods cloak she comes with. You can see the light shines through this, so this is nice and thin and airy and nice and flowy. On this tab right here, it actually has a Velcro attachment. And we'll get into that later on in the video, and that's so you can attach it to the other strap when you're wrapping it around the figure. So I'm a big fan of soft goods, really happy to have that. Next, we'll look at her battle helmet. You can see this is in a green tone with yellow eyes. I really like the breather mask or breather portion on this with the orange hose that goes all the way around the back right here. Great looking sculpting on this, and this is actually an additional head, so you'd pop the head off the figure and pop this on. And we'll go over that later on in the video. She also comes with 2 sets of additional hands, and these are gloved hands. Get these in nice and close so you can see. These are more of an open grasping type hand. Really great looking detail on these. And of course these have that articulation point on all these hands. Next, I'll grab the more relaxed open hands right here. These are like gesturing type hands. Really great sculpt on these too. So this gives you some options for when you're posing your figure or doing some figure photography. And lastly, she comes with this translucent red blast effect. This has some really nice detail on it, and right here's the peg that actually ports on her wrist firing mechanism. And we'll take a look at where this actually goes once we take a closer look at Andra. And you know what, before we look at Fisto and all his accessories, let's go ahead and look at Andra first. She is absolutely beautiful. Just look at that face sculpt. Her eyes are absolutely beautifully painted. The sculpting on her hair is crazy. I mean, look at that. There's no paint slop anywhere. Nice brown bandolier right here with her belt. Really nice looking legs with the thigh-high boots and yellow knee pads. I'm telling you, this figure has impressed me since the second I took it out of the packaging. And right here on her left wrist is that rocket fire mechanism. That's where you would actually port in that firing effect. Looking at the back, no paint slop back here, and it's wonderfully painted all the way down the back of her legs. I will say that people will probably have issue with the color yellow of the double joints right there, but that's due to the solid yellow knee pads. Nice looking sculpting on this wrist. And of course, right back around the front. She absolutely looks like a female and is beautifully painted and sculpted. Next, we'll take a look at Fisto and his accessories. And he comes with 2 extra left hands and a sword. Take a look at the sword first. This has a nice purple hilt with some detail down here on the pommel. Nice wrapping and a dull silver blade. This is relatively flexible and mine is a little bent. I'll have to heat that up and straighten it out. Next, I'll take a look at his hands, and like I said, he has two left hands. One's a gesturing open palm hand, and the second one is more of a gripping hand, and that's to certainly hold on to his sword. The tone matches the figure perfectly. I'm just curious, let me grab the sword and stick it in this gripping hand. Just see how tight he actually holds on to this thing. And if I shake it, it's not going to fall out. I'll put this hand in the figure later on once we go over the articulation. And just see how well he actually holds onto it under the weight of the actual figure. Let's take a look at Fisto next. And we'll start with his head sculpt. Again, his eyes are painted perfectly. We bend him down a little bit. You can see all the fantastic sculpting of his beard and his hair. Really nice looking detail on this figure. No paint slop on him either. Give you a little profile look right here. Coming down to his chest armor, it's a callback to the original Fisto. That's purple and silver. He's got a nice flexible brown loincloth, and the same color brown is on the top of the fur of his boots, with the purple wrap boots. Looking at all the skin tone and musculature of this figure, I really like how they toned down this color. Coming around to the back, again, they carry all this fantastic detail all over his back, and I don't see any paint slop on this figure anyway, guys. Let's take a look at his fist. This is in a nice silver color with the rivets and the nicely sculpted fingers and thumb. Really mechanical looking and heavy duty looking, and I tell you, I wouldn't want this thing swinging at me and connecting. And be it that I never had an original Fisto when I was a kid, I'm pretty happy to have him in my collection finally. So when it comes to paint and sculpt, these figures look like they jumped right out of the animated series and onto my desk. Alright, let's see what the articulation is like for both these figures. We'll start with Andra first, and as we always do, we'll start with her head. Of course, this moves left and right, and this is on a ball joint. She can only look up about this far, and you can see it springs back down. But she can tuck her chin in about this far, so she can look at the ground. Now, if you come down to the shoulders, she can get a nice high T pose. Of course, these rotate forward this far and back this far, and because of the shoulder armor, you can't rotate them all the way around. Coming down to the bicep, there is a bicep swivel right here. This goes back and forth. She's got a double jointed elbow, so really great range of motion on the elbow here. She can reach all the way around her back if she needs to. Let's go down to her wrist next. And note, both these wrists are absolutely same when it comes to articulation. They rotate around and bend in the up and down direction in this fashion. So, coming down to her midsection, she does have a cut right beneath the breastplate here, and this goes in the rocking fashion like this, but you can't rotate it due to the shape of the actual body. But she does have a cut right here at the waist, so you can get her to rotate back and forth. Now, she can bend over about this far, and putting her head down, she can look at the ground just fine. But she can only stand up 90 degrees, just because of the way of the sculpt of the body. Not sure if you took the belt off, you'd get a little bit more articulation. Coming down to the legs, she can do the splits really nicely. And the way that they actually engineered the skirt of this figure, it's flexible like the loincloth on the male figure, so that'll flex out of the way if need be. Of course, she does have a thigh cut right here that rotates back and forth. She can put her leg back this far for running and walking poses. And she can Spartan kick forward this far.
This is Sparta!
Of course, she has a double knee joint. Get this to bend up nice and tightly, and I'll flip it around this side so you can get a good look at that. Coming down to her calf, she actually has a boot cut, so this swivels back and forth. Let's come down to her ankle next. She has rocker ankles, so these pivot back and forth. And I wanted to point out there is a hole on the bottom of her foot, in case you want to put her on her figure stand. Point your toe up this far, and no problem putting her toe down. Well, with all this great articulation, you won't have any problem getting her into any type of dynamic poses. While we have Andra in front of us, let's go over her accessories next. We'll start with the head, and this just pops off really easily. And we'll grab the helmeted head, and I will tell you I did heat this helmet up quite a bit with a blow dryer because it is nice and thick, and I didn't want to break the figure. You do still have all this articulation back and forth, and it won't get a lot of up because of the hose or a lot of down, and that's just, of course, due to the sculpting of the helmet. Next, we'll take a look at the wrist here, and I'll show you how that these hands just pop off. Again, I did heat up the figure so nothing breaks. You take another hand, you just pop this back into place, and of course you have all that fantastic articulation. Let's take a look at that translucent blast effect next, and that goes right in here. Bend her wrist down out of the way. And grab this, and of course that just pegs into the hole right here. Push it in nice and firmly. It's not going to fall out, and now she has this blast effect going on, looking like she's shooting something off of her wrist. So I like how they included that with this figure. For her last accessory is that black soft goods cloak. So let me get her to stand up. I'll grab this. Now I'm just going to show you how I put it on the figure. Of course you can do it any way you want, but after fooling around with this figure I found this to be the easiest way. You put the hood over the head first. You take this band right here, the non-Velcro band. You wrap it around the back and tuck it in the back here. And what I do is I'll put my thumb on the front of the figure, and this is the part with the Velcro. Put my thumb right here, flip the cloak back, wrap it around, and there's one of two ways. You can either just tuck it in loose, because it will stay, like this, or, again, you can utilize that Velcro and just stick it to the other tab or any part of the cape that you want to. That just sticks on there. So now we have the helmeted, cloaked Andra figure ready for battle. Again, I like the tatted look of this, and you can see how flowy it is. And it is loose enough where you can actually keep the hood on or off. Take the hood off and show it like this. Also, I find that if you take this completely off before you put on the unhelmeted head, it's a lot easier. Pop this off, and we'll put this head back on. And because of our large ponytail, I find it easier to put the hood on first. Now, it doesn't fit on there perfectly, but this is the easiest way I found to put this on. Again, you just wrap this side around the back. Pull this out of the way. And don't worry about exposing her face just yet. And pardon my fumbling fingers here. Here's the Velcro side. Again, we'll wrap it around. Keep pressure on the front of the tab here. Wrap it around the back. And boy, am I fumbling with this thing for some reason. And pull this forward. And again, like I said, this will fit on here nice and loosely. Get this to tuck in under her chin. Like this. Again, that ponytail is rather large, so this is about as good as I can get it. You can pull it off so it's not covering her head at all. So, absolutely fantastic addition that they added this cloak. It is not wired, like I said, and it flows really nicely. Nice and thin. You can see the light shining through it. I've always been a fan of soft goods, and with this addition, she looks like she jumped right out of the Netflix series and onto my desk. Let's go over FISTO's articulation next. Of course, as we always do, we'll start with the head. He can move left and right. And this is on a ball joint. And you can see how his head tips up to get over his armor. He can't look up that far due to the sculpting of the hair, but he can tuck his chin in pretty good. There we go, like that. And that actually tucks behind the armor, so he can look at the ground. Coming down to the shoulders. Nice high T pose. Of course, these rotate 360 degrees if you need to. Now, he's got bicep swivel. Now, I think of note, his shoulder does spin too, so just keep note of where that articulation point is, so when you go to move him around, you know where it's at. We'll come down to the elbow, and this is double jointed, but due to his large biceps right here and forearms, that's about all you're going to get. So you get a nice 90-degree bend right there. Coming down to the wrist, this rotates 360 degrees. And just like Andra, it goes in and out. Let me turn this around so you can get a better look. It goes down and up. Now on the mechanical fist here, this only rotates around 360 degrees. There's no back and forth bend at all. No need for it, I guess, because that's just a punching fist. Now let's come down to the midsection, and due to all the armor, you can't see the cut underneath there. You will get articulation if you remove it, and that's easy enough. You just disconnect the tabs here. I would suggest heating this up a little bit and unbuckling these. Looks like they'll pop off relatively easily. He does have waist articulation, so you get back and forth. We'll come down to his legs. He can do the splits really well. Not bad for a muscular guy and again, this loincloth is flexible, so it'll get out of the way. Got a thigh cut right here. That rotates back and forth. Now he can bend his leg back about this far for walking poses. And of course, he also has the Spartan kick forward this high. And he'll be able to kick his enemy in the stomach if he needs to. Again, he has a double jointed knee, and I'll spin it around over here so you can get a better look at that. And you'll only get about this much range out of it, and that's due to the fur on the actual boot right here. So, not bad, considering his muscular legs and all. We'll come down to the ankles, and these are on a rocker. And you can see he's got a foot peg hole right there. Point his toe down. And he can point his toe about this far. So for a bulky guy, got some really good range of motion. And just like the He-Man figure, I do want to show you that if you move the arm around just right and get the pivot points correct, you can reach around the back of his head. Even with all this musculature and sculpting. It just depends on how you position the shoulder joint right here. So keep that in mind. And just like we did with the Andra figure, I want to take a minute and show you how to put his hands in. I did warm up his arm for about 30 seconds with my blow dryer on low. This pops out really easily. And this does not remove. It seems like it would because it's a separate sculpt, but I'm not going to try to tear it off and wreck the figure. We'll take the gripping hand, and as you can see, it just pops in there really easily. Now I will show you that the hand is nice and flexible, so that's not going to break. We'll slide these out of the way, and I'll grab the sword, pop that in his hand again, and like we showed you earlier, he's holding on to this nice and tight. He's not going to drop it. I wonder if he can, yeah, he can still hold on to it. It is a little loose, as you can see. It needs a little adjustment, but he is not going to drop this thing at all. Alright, before we wrap up this video, let's do some comparisons with some other figures I have in my collection. Of course, we've got to bring in the man himself, He-Man. And as you can see, he is much taller than these two figures. And again, you can see the difference in the skin tones. Alright, and if you want to do some crossovers, I have a Super 7 Lion-O figure. Of course, Lion-O is supposed to be taller than these guys, and he scales really well. And lastly, do something a little different. I'll bring in my Mezco Captain Rogers figure. And of course, the Mezco figures do run a little bit shorter. But with some trick photography, I guess you can make it work if you wanted to. And I can really appreciate how they didn't repurpose the entire He-Man body for Fisto and gave us another figure of a different height. So what's my final thoughts? Are these figures worth picking up? I say absolutely. I'm glad to see Mattel has stepped up their game. The paint is on point. The figure sculpting looks fantastic. And the variety is amazing. I like how these figures look like they just jumped out of the Netflix series and onto my desk. So please stay tuned. I have some more reviews coming of the other Revelation figures I have in my collection. And as always, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you like what you see, join the community. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for future notification of upcoming videos. And more importantly, help a fellow collector out and share your knowledge.